He has performed with Santana, Steve Winwood, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, just to name a few. Since 2012, he has been with the band Chicago. Walfredo Reyes Jr. on this episode of Drumheads and Tales. Walfredo Reyes Jr., a.k.a. Wally, welcome to Drumheads and Tales.
Thank you for having me.
So you grew up in a very musical family, with your dad even being a pioneer in some genres of music. What is something that your dad instilled in you about the music business?
Well, at the beginning, it was the technical aspect of drumming. When I asked him, I want to play drums. So he started me in the practice pad with the book of rudiments, and he said you have to develop your technique, learn how to read rudiments and all that before I even touched the drum set. I just wanted to play. I never really wanted to play drums because I saw soloists and Buddy Rich and all that. You know, it was impressive, but it was basically because I wanted to play the music I loved at that time, which was the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Grassroots, the Hollies, all the stuff that was coming on the radio, Cream, CTA. And so I wanted to play that music. So since my dad was a drummer, it was easy to use drums as a vehicle to play that music I loved. And so he started me teaching drums. But as that year in '69, we moved to Las Vegas. Now I started to also play percussion and start to get gigs. Once I started to get gigs mixing music with money, then of course I learned from my dad how to be, famous quote from my dad, when you're working and doing a job like the one I'm doing with Chicago or any artist, you do what you need to do. When you get your own band, then you do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so there's a certain discipline that my dad installed on not only me, my brother, everybody in our family. You stay on your lane and you do your job well done. If you want to do something different and you want to do your own thing, that's not the time to do it in this people's bandwagon. You form your own band. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I learned about my dad. Always be a professional on stage and off stage.
You grew up watching your dad play with all these famous people. What was that like for you as a child?
It was great, even before I even wanted to play drums. So a lot of people don't realize that when I grew up, I saw Dr. Dolittle in the 60s and I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I had chickens, fish, parakeets, cats, and so it wasn't until I became like 12 that the music bug hit me. You know, it had to do with the girls, with going to dances, school dances, and taking a girl with the chaperone, and then there was a band there. And then the second time I did that, the band really sucked. And I went like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much music I had already absorbed subconsciously, that I realized like, these guys are really not that good and we're paying them money. And they're taking our girls too. The girls are going, oh my God, they're so cute. They had the bell bottoms and the hair and the look. So I went, that's the day after I remember I went to my dad and I said, I want to learn how to play drums. I can do better.
What was your first big break?
My first big break, believe it or not, and this is actually a lesson of its own. It wasn't a big break, but like recently I put on my Facebook, when I was asked, how do you get the big gigs? And my answer was doing a million little gigs. So one of those little gigs was like basically just after school when I was, I think, in the 10th grade, not 9th or 10th grade in high school. I used to play percussion, and that way I could practice the beats, congas, djembe, tambora with the pedal, percussion, and to a dancing school. And it was $9 an hour a lesson. So it was Ron Lewis, choreographer of Casino de Paris, and this was a boot camp dancing. Like all the showgirls, pretty showgirls that have all the costumes and all that, they cannot really dance. So in this class, they worked out this choreography, and I would play a beat, and I learned 5, 6, 7, 8, boom, ba-ta, boom, bing, ba-ta, boom, bing, and then it got faster and faster. So Ron Lewis one day said, "You'll be perfect for the new show I'm choreographing." And I went, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, Debbie Reynolds show. And there's a scene where you have to play Come Rain or Come Shine, like really fast on the bongos, like Jack Constanza in Hollywood, you know, the play with Desi Arnaz. So it was, that was my first gig that actually my dad took me to the musicians union, because back then everything was union. Yeah. And which was a good thing. You know, you had a lot of great benefits for musicians. So my dad co-signed for me. I had to get a sheriff's card because I was a minor. And I'm writing a book right now, but I'll put a lot of the stories there. But it was great to play that show and play with a lot of older musicians. And I got to know Debbie Reynolds really good, because out of all the people, we did 2 shows a night, an 8 o'clock show and a 12 o'clock show. So everybody left after the first show to the coffee shop to get something to eat. But Debbie could not leave. She was in the dressing room. And I couldn't leave either because I was a minor. So one day she got out of her dressing room and in her bathrobe and goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm doing my homework for tomorrow." You know, and then I do the second show. Then I go home and go to school in the morning. So she invited me to the dressing room, and we were talking, and I got to listen to all the Hollywood stories, and it was really interesting.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to leave somebody out, but the list of people that you have played with is amazing. Gloria Estefan, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, Steve Winwood, Boz Scaggs, Donna Sumner, Santana, and now Chicago. I saw you playing with Santana in front of thousands of people. You did a drum solo on Soul Sacrifice. That must have been very cool.
Yes, it was great.
Play some large crowds.
You know, in some of these bands, I should have been born a little earlier and moved to LA, maybe in the 70s. It would have been a whole other thing. I joined some of these legendary bands when they have had other drummers, the original and other drummers before me. So I've become kind of like an expert on, for example, I mean, even like David Lindley, there was Ian Wallace before me, Santana, Michael Shreve, Undugu, Chester Thompson, the drummer, Graham Lear, before me.
Yeah, so you're always...
And then joined Traffic. So then with Traffic was with Jim Capaldi, which was the original drummer, but then a lot of the other parts that I played on drums was Jim Gordon. So you always have to take over somebody that did it before you. Yeah. So that's how you start. You basically capture what they did, and then little by little, the artist allows you and requests, you can start putting your own signature. Like with Santana, Soul Sacrifice was the last solo. I also did a solo with the percussionist, and then I did a solo with the bass player. So it was 3 solos with Santana. So that was like a lot of work on percussion and drums.
Do you have one moment in time with any of the artists that you will never forget?
Oh wow, that's a really difficult question. There's so many. Yeah. So many unbelievable moments. Well,
not one just jumps out that happened.
No. Okay. Well, you know, out of the top of my head, Rock in Rio with Santana, it was almost like 200 and something thousand people in the Maracanã stadium, soccer stadium. So it was three rock Brazilian bands, Billy Idol, In Excess, Santana. It was sold out. The energy was so unbelievable. We did a show, and then Robert Plant got sick, and they asked us to play with Prince. Another sold out performance. So we play in 1 week in Rio de Janeiro, Rock in Rio. We played twice. and Pat Metheny and Jovan and many, Luigi de Oliveira, that used to be percussionist with Chicago, he joined us. So it was like a very memorable, not only musically, but the crowd energy. And of course, in 2000, I worked with this artist in France, Johnny Hallyday. And he was one of the biggest artists of France, like so big that we played in front of the Eiffel Tower for 500,000 people.
That's cool.
It was an incredible energy to feel.
Yeah, that many people. You played with Steve Winwood, I'd mentioned, and Traffic for quite a while, right?
Yeah, actually, with Chicago, I've been 14 years. With Steve Winwood, I played from 1994 to 2004. And I would have continued. The only thing is my personal life at that time was very difficult. I was going through a divorce with 3 kids, and it was like taking place in the Bay Area in California. And with Steve, he's an English artist. So I couldn't be in visitation for my kids and in court and doing all that and living at Steve's place, going to Europe, different countries of Europe, and then coming back to Steve's place is impossible physically to do. So that's I played with Steve until 2004.
I also mentioned that you had played with Lindsey Buckingham. Take me back to the somewhat abrupt ending of your time with him.
Well, you know, the thing that happened with Lindsey, life is crazy. You know, you go, you never know what tomorrow may bring. So I started with Lindsey. It was a mixture of percussion and drums because he was doing an acoustic set. And then it went electronic and louder, you know, like the Fleetwood Mac songs. So I started with him in 2007. By 2011, we had a great band. We're doing tours, you know, with all the solo records and Fleetwood Mac songs that he had written. And it was great, fantastic. And one guy in the band got really ill with his back. And actually, he had a major back surgery. He couldn't get out of bed, and then we couldn't travel. And Lindsey decided, because it was such a tight band, instead of going through the whole change of guitarists and auditioning a new guy, we didn't have time, so he canceled the tour. Because he canceled the tour, now I found myself on a Christmas season, 4 months to go, and 0 work. And so now I started freelancing. So now I started freelancing, and like my brother said on your interview, I was doing a Frangambali, actually it was Carl Verheyen that I was working a lot with his trio in Europe. And you know, so basically it was El Chicano over here, a clinic over here. I got a session on Wednesday. So, and then Danny said, Danny had been called to Zach Brown, but then he got called also to play percussion with Chicago, and then he couldn't do 1 week, I remember. And so I had on my calendar, it was filled up with like, teach a lesson, go to South America and do this drum clinics, and then come back and play with Carl Verheyen. 1 week with Chicago, then El Chicano. I was playing with El Chicano, the band. Tell her she's lovely. You know, so I was having like a big, that's what you do when you freelance.
Right.
When you're with a band, like with Steve Winwood, that was most of the time with Steve Winwood, like now with Chicago. So what happened is like I learned the show and I arrived, and these guys don't sound check, as you know. So I just learned the show, and 20 minutes before we played, I think somewhere in the East Coast, New York, I knew Tris, I knew Lou Pardini at the time, and I knew Ray Herman, the saxophonist, but it was Walter Parazita, Robert Lamb, Jimmy Pankow, and Lee Lockney, and I met them before the show, and I said to Walt, is there anything you guys want me to do specifically since we didn't rehearse or anything? He goes, yes. Go out there and have a blast, have some fun. And I went, okay. Cool. And so at the first show, I was kind of like, I had a little cheat sheet because I knew what Lao G played on the records and everything on percussion, but that's a big mistake. If you take over a band, legendary band, the record was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You have to do what the latest show.
Yeah.
What they did. So I had the tape of the latest show and Drew Hester and my brother Danny. So then I was following the little cheat sheet and trying to see. And then by the second and third show, I said, oh, okay, so I just basically started laughing and having a good time and playing instinct because, you can imitate what happened yesterday and the day before, the month before, but today is a new day and you have to reaction to the present. Yeah. And if Tris does something and I can catch it, or there's a solo that is not with the last guy, you got to go with the flow of the present. And then I remember Robert Lamb came to the dressing room. He goes, hey, Wally, I know your brother is busy with Zach Brown, and we love Danny, but you sound like you've been with us forever. And I said, well, I've been with you forever since the first record. It was one of my first record that I bought with my own money, CTA. And so I've been with you every record. He goes, well, if you want to hop on the bus and continue with us, you're welcome. And then he split. And then I went okay, hop on the bus, Gus. And Tris was in the dressing room. He goes, I think you just got hired. And he goes, really? And so the next day I called the manager. He goes, yeah. And from there on, I've been here since 2012.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you were playing alongside of Tris Imboden, who is a fantastic drummer. I know you guys are good friends, but is there one lick that you stole from Tris?
The whole show. I mean, really, because I was playing with Tris on percussion, and the reason Tris is not here had nothing to do with music. Right. Chicago was really happy with me on percussion and Tris on drums. Yeah, he's an awesome player. We were just jamming, and Tris brought this. He took what Danny did, and then
Danny Serafin,
and then did his own thing because he was here for 28 years. So he brought I always used to tell him actually. He goes, you are the reason I'm losing weight because I can't stop dancing while I'm playing because, he used to make me dance. So he brought this rock, funk, greasy beat to Chicago music. And so maybe what was once a jazz fusion version of a song, Tris made it more dancing, funky. And so I love that. So when I took over, why should I change anything? I mean, basically it was working and that's what they wanted me. Yeah. So at the beginning, Danny, even though he was the original guy, now I'm playing 6 years on percussion. Mm-hmm. He had to do what the last show that I did, and I had to imitate the last show that Tris did. And so that's how you keep the train running. The worst attitude to have for a drummer is wait till you hear how I'm gonna change everything and do my shit. No, that doesn't work. That's not professional. You actually have to keep the train running smooth. And the rails. Take over whoever the last one. It's gonna change eventually because your drum sound, your feel, your whatever. But all the licks that Tris did, a lot of licks, and then I actually brought some of Danny. So Tris. I'm actually, and I said this in my first Facebook announcement that I was going to be the drummer with Chicago, and this is so true, believe me. Every show, including today, when I step on that stool and there's an audience out there, the lights are on and the sound is on, and I sit on my drum stool, Tris and Danny are in my heart and soul because they, just like when I was with Santana, can't help Michael Shreve. Is in my heart, and then Undugu and Graham Lear that played all those records. So if I do this song, that has their DNA. So that's how I approach what I'm doing now. You know, if I do something that is a little different and the guys love it, or I get instructions sometimes. So for example, you can't do what Danny did, like Beginnings, for example, it's a little faster than the record. So it doesn't have, if Danny was doing that song faster in 1969 or 1970, he might have played differently. So I'm playing Beginnings a little faster, like say like the Police plays their music faster, and Stuart Copeland has to change a little bit. So, you know, tempo, groove, and styles are very important. So when I play Beginnings, it's Robert Lamb's baby. So Robert basically told me, yeah, but don't play that many fills. Well, I love all of Danny fills and Beginnings, obviously, but that's not what they want me to do. So like basically Jimmy wrote some songs, Lee. So when they tell me, you know, they're more like groove oriented, just play the groove. I try to please the who's paying me.
Yeah, that's the name of the game.
That's right.
So I've heard you mention before that playing percussion has helped you bring certain rhythms to the drum kit. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I mean, before the drum set was invented, there was percussion. So percussion is the root, you know, just like before the Moog synthesizer, there was the pianoforte in the 15th century, 16th century. You know, there were keyboards, and then there was the acoustic piano, and then there was the grand piano, and then came electronics, and then B3, and so on. So like drum set was a percussion, you might say, world beat conglomeration of different. You have a symphonic bass drum, military snare drum, had Chinese tom-toms, Turkish cymbals, which are still Turkish in foundation. So basically you had timpani, so it was a percussion conglomeration, and then came the pedal for the bass drum. The last thing, as you know, if you study the history of the drum set, was the hi-hat. It was called the low boy, and then went up to the hi-hat as we know today. The right cymbal came later. It was not like ching, 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 since the 1920s. That was not the case. So, you know, the drum set developed. But meanwhile, a lot of the percussion rhythms from Africa, India, China, the Middle East, and, you know, all the fountains of rhythms and cultures of the world, now what we have been doing, and we still are, is transferring the percussion rhythms into the drum set. So now you got a drum set player that instead of playing goom, ba, goom, goom, got, goom, got, goom, goom, got, we do ach, got, got, ah. And you can play with percussion also.
Right.
You know, there's
Fits
other.
right together.
Yeah.
So when Tris announced that he was leaving, did they hand the drum kit gig to you automatically, or did you have to try out for it?
No.
How did that go?
It was really weird because, you know, of course, like I had played with Tris and his former wife band, Cecilia, on percussion, and I knew Tris. Of course, I knew Lou. I had played, by that time, Ray Herman was playing saxophone, and him and I did the Johnny Holiday tour together. So I think, unbeknownst to me, at that time, when the situation happened, I had a job. I'm playing percussion with Chicago.
No matter what.
And I just moved from Los Angeles back to Las Vegas. I had bought a house in Vegas. Financially, I had more house for my money and no state tax. So it was almost like getting a raise just by changing zip code. So I was happy. I had met this lady, which is now my wife. So we were going out, and I was planning to go to, and we did. She invited me. She's a scuba diver, so she had a trip to Bali and an island called Wakatobi in December. But this situation happened in November, and I was going, I wonder what's going to happen. So I don't know if they're going to audition drummers. No, I play drums and drum set and percussion.
I know you were a drummer first and percussion second.
But I love playing percussion. It's a little less responsibility. It's more like coloring. like drummer, for lack of better words, is meat and potato, and then the percussionist, you put the parsley and the salt, the seasoning, the little spice and all that. So basically you color the meat and potato. You got a potato, okay, but you put butter, bacon bits, a little sour cream and all that. So that's percussion, And so so when all of a sudden I'm in catering one day, and apparently they have been talk. My first CD was out, and Robert actually loved it, and he puts that track, Avacuando, he puts it before the show for the people to hear. So that's how much he liked it. And so all of a sudden I'm on catering, and Lee comes over and goes, "Wally, when are you ready to hop on the drums?" And I went, "Whoa, wait a minute." I'm not gonna hop on Triss's drum. They're still here, we're still touring. And I go man, I don't know, wouldn't it be better if I start, maybe give me time? And he goes, "Well, you might have to do that," but they worked it to where Triss and Jeff Coffey had finished the year, and then we started in January. And then by that time, because playing drums and percussion with the show, the difference is we're on the same road, but percussion is one car and drum set is another car. So you're on the same road, same show, but now you got this car that has a different. So you got to stop for a minute and go, okay, where's the clutch?
Yeah.
Where's the windshield wipers? When I need.
You physically use his kit?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't want to do that because that was Triss's kid. I had my percussion.
Yeah.
So what happened is we ended in November or something like that. Then we did 3 or 4 shows at the beginning of January, and then we started rehearsals in January before we opened Vegas with me on drums, Danny on percussion, new bass player, the singer that we have now, Neil Donnell, and we opened up in Vegas, and the rest is history.
That's cool. And you knew all the arrangements and all the music, so
yeah, I knew.
So that part of it actually made it. And I would think it's an easier transition for the band to have the drum part and get a percussionist than it is the other way around.
Yeah, so they knew that I knew what Triss did. I knew all the tempos, and then I could actually help the percussionist. So when my brother. So what happened, as you know the story, what happened right at that point, Danny got made a member of Zac Brown. So then it was full on new album, which was a hit, and then he took off. And so now we need to get a percussionist that is with Chicago all the time. And then they got Ray Islas. I recommended Ray because I had known Ray since the early 90s when we both had long hair and we were a lot skinnier. And so, for God's sake, Ray used to carry my kids when they were little babies.
I've known him a long time.
And so, what happened is when Ray came in, I said, "Ray, do this," and they don't like for example, Jimmy doesn't want congas on this song, and on this song I would play. This is what I did, and then Ray found just like me on the drums.
Found his own way. Yeah,
because we had to do a drum solo. Feature, and it's an entertaining solo. It's not check out my chops, So we worked out this drum solo, percussion solo, and Ray's really funny guy, and we add humor and entertainment because 99% of our audience are not drummer percussionists. So you have to. That's another lesson from my dad.
Yeah.
Play the room. If it's a tiny room, use brushes, thin sticks. If it's a big stadium, maybe you might want to play fatter sticks, but always play for your audience. Is it a dancing audience? Is it a drummer audience? Are they percussion students? You got to play for the audience. So that is important for me.
I hear your daughter Liliana is now playing percussion and singing with George Benson?
Yes. The only thing is that George kind of retired, and he's like 81, something like that,
Yeah.
and he's cutting his touring.
Way back.
So he just does engagements, a few engagements a year.
Yeah.
And Liliana's busy, like right now she's in Portugal singing for Portugal Symphony or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so she's freelancing more, which is what you do when your tour is not happening.
Right.
But she's been right out of USC. She was very proud of her. She went for a music degree. She's the only one in my family, a family of musicians that have a music degree.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't finish mine because I was working all the time.
Yeah.
And then so she got a music degree, and while she was at USC, she auditioned for George Benson and got the gig.
That's cool. So I believe you put out 3 CDs, and the third one has just been released.
Yeah, well, the third one I'm releasing one song at a time. CDs are not available unless you sell them on your gigs.
So it's downloads.
Yeah, so for now I'm releasing songs to download, and then in the near future, maybe next year when I start doing gigs with my trio, I'll make some CDs to sign on the gigs, live gigs, and then I'll compile all the songs. There are like about 9 to 10 songs, and some of them are still being mixed and mastered. I got the same combination of people that did my first 2 CDs, which sounded amazing, and that's not only because of the musicians on the CDs, but because Johnny Silas Cranfield, which used to be a young player back 2016, 15, and now he's actually he's worked on so many Alicia Keys and Beyonce's last DVD, live DVD, and he's in LA working for the best of the best. So when he's not busy, I go, hey, Johnny, remember me? Can you help me with this? And so he has mixed my CDs, and Keith Howland, that used to play guitar with Chicago, has mastered my last 2 CDs, and he's mastering. He's a great mastering engineer, and him and Johnny work really great together.
Your other CD, Wally's World, has a bunch of really cool Latin rhythms. Some of them are odd meters. I heard a samba in 15, which I don't ever think I've heard a samba in 15
that's
before.
one.
Do you like playing in odd meters?
Yeah. Chicago has a lot of odd meters.
Yeah.
Odd meters, I used to play a lot of odd meters in high school, and in college, arrangements, big band arrangements, like Frank Zappa and Mothers of Invention, and I was always a fan when I was a kid. Of course, with drum lessons comes development, so I started playing from Honky Tonk Woman to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Yes, and Osibisa, African stuff, and then Santana came, and all the rock progressive. The more I lived an era where Billy Cobham and Mahavishnu Orchestra, Spectrum, and then Narda, Michael Walden with Emeralds, Visions of the Emerald Beyond with Mahavishnu. So, I loved all the progressive, all the jazz, and all the polyrhythm stuff, as also the simple stuff. I think when Chameleon, Herbie Hancock came in, and then Chick Corea returned to Forever with Airto. So I was the kind of guy that went from, and I loved it. It's almost like I consider myself not a cook, but a chef. So I studied percussion completely. And I would put my tuxedo, this is even in high school. I went to play with the chamber orchestra at UNLV, and it was Stravinsky and many of the greats and legit percussion. And then I had in Las Vegas in those days, you had Cachao living there. My dad playing the shows. Alex Acuna had moved to Las Vegas, so I used to work with all these bands that were like jazz fusion to top 40 to funky stuff, Barry White, Ohio Players, Stevie Wonder, you know, just like Earth, Wind and Fire. And from there, go to the university, music theory, big band jazz ensemble. And so that my diet was a huge one. And so when you actually are doing that kind of thing, you can actually travel like a school of fish through the waves and the different currents of water, because you know how to be a team player in a school of fish. When you're going against the grain, oh, I don't know how to do that, then everybody has a problem. So when you learn to navigate the music in all styles, and I embrace diversity and different styles, I just love music.
That's very cool. You have a favorite song that you're going to play tonight with Chicago?
Well, a lot of people ask me that. You know, the different eras, like Robert Lamb said to me, you sound like you've been with us forever. So I have. So the first time, I'll tell you a little story of how it happened. So I was listening to the American and British radio at that time. My brother, Kamar, which passed away 2 years ago, when he was a baby, I was like maybe in the 7th grade in Puerto Rico. He used to take a nap and I used to put him to sleep. My mom was busy with the other kids. So I used to put Kamar to sleep and I used to turn on the radio. And this song came out on the radio, Beginnings. And I went, wow, that's different than Honky Tonk Woman and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And so like, I got up and I used to mow lawns for extra money. Not only ours, but the neighbors. And in those days, it was tough. It was hot, mow the lawn, machete, do the edges. So they used to give me like $10, which was a lot of money for me. So I took my bicycle and I went to a store called Jamco, which was like a Walmart in those days with a record vinyls. And I said to the lady, there's a band called CTA, and it's a song Beginnings. He goes, oh yeah, this is this record. And when I opened the record, it was 2 records. And I go, oh my God, what a deal. And when I open up the album, there they are. These are the guys. And I used to play that song, and I fell in love with that album. Listen, and it was so funky. It was like Terry Kath. This is the guitar player. This is Danny, the drummer. This is, so I honed in, and then I would, basically, it was almost like, what's the name of the guy, The Power of Attraction. You know, I would used to think and fantasize, like this guy's in the photo. I never saw them live, so what would it be like to play this music live?
And here you are.
It would be amazing. And then came Chicago 2.
Yep.
And that was one, like, you know, and then of course I dug in deeply into that album. By that time, I had progressed as a drummer percussionist more. And then in 1970, we moved to Las Vegas, and in 1974, I went to see Chicago New Year's Eve show with a band called Madura that opened for them. And I remember that the other day I actually told the story. I should have known, because I had a date and another couple. So my date started talking with the girl next to her, and the other guy was just there like sitting. And when Chicago started, it was with Lau G, was on percussion. But everybody was on the floor. Nobody was on a pedestal, you know, like on a stage, on a riser. And so it was like everybody on the floor, like Jimi Hendrix did it and Cream did it, you know, one carpet for the drums. And I couldn't see the drums because they were like, And I told my date, you mind if I go and check out like what he's using? Go, oh, sure. And I went over there, and I went all the way to the beginning of the stage, so the guys were like right here, you know. And then Danny was like basically where the camera is right here. It's just like that bass drum right there, and I was just going like that. And all of a sudden, there's the end of the show. 2 hours went by, and I went, oh crap. I went back to my seat, and she was like, you know, I am so sorry. I got carried away by the drums. I should have known that was going to be the story of my life.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, I mean, in many words.
Sure. And you mentioned this, but your brother, before he took off permanently with Zach, and you were on drums, you guys got to play together in Chicago. That must have been cool playing with
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because you used to do that years ago, right?
Oh my God, well, Danny, you know, we grew up playing together at the house.
Yeah.
Jamming. My dad used to have a lot of jam sessions in Las Vegas. It was like everybody that came through town came to the house to jam, whatever. And then, you know, of course, when Danny started playing drums and percussion, I was already with Lola Falana and traveling and all that. So like what happened is, you know, when I used to come back to the house to visit or to play, Danny had progressed amazingly. I mean, and then he was going to the gym too with my other brother, and they pumped up, and you know, and so like at one time, you know, because my dad did something for us, he will help us and recommend us just like I would probably do with my own kids, but never recommend us to something that he knew that it was over our heads. If we're not qualified, he would not recommend us.
Yeah.
So Danny was playing great. I mean, he was playing like up a storm, you know, like percussion and everything. And so I started working with Ben Vereen, and they needed a percussionist, and I recommended Danny. And basically, we were on the road with Ben Vereen together. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And from there on, you know, I moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And eventually, he continued, and he carved a name for himself by playing like that saying, a million little gigs. Yep. And I'm talking about 1 million.
Yep. So is it true that the song Walfredo that Fish did has something to do with you?
Yeah, that was kind of like a biographical story. When I was with David Lindley, the slide guitar player with Jackson Browne, Lindley was open for the Grateful Dead. We did some shows with the Grateful Dead. And when we played the East Coast, which we are right now, Fish, I think they were like really young, high school or college age, used to come to our shows, and they were like big fans of David Lindley. And then I went from David Lindley to Santana. And then one year we're playing with Santana in Vermont or something, and I remember it was Jerry's ice cream in the dressing rooms.
Yeah.
I went, yeah. And so and then Fish opened for us, and I remember them, and so we jammed with each other and all that. And then when they came back to see Santana, I was gone with Steve Winwood. So then they wrote this little funny song, and they changed instruments in that song. Yeah. And it was called Walfredo because it's like a song like we went to see David Lindley and where's Wally?
You were gone.
And I was gone. And of course the chorus is Walfredo, where did you go? How much did they pay you? Who put you up to it? And then I went from Santana to Steve Winwood, and then one day I was on tour with Steve Winwood, and Trey Anastasio sat in with us. Yeah. And I did other sessions with Mike, the bass player. And so, yeah, I've kept in touch, and they're great guys. And then, you know, probably they don't even realize it, but somebody put a Walfredo t-shirt. And then, of course, it quoted the song, and I know they got in trouble for that. But it was like a Walfredo shirt. And I opened up one time, I think it was my wife or something, that opened up online, and there's like all these millions of Walfredo t-shirts. And I said, well, you know, that's the Fish, even though it's my name and it's me, but that's their thing. Yeah. And as they should. But that's when I decided to actually do a Walfredo shirt with my real name, and then I'm planning to do other ones that have my image, because believe it or not, I learned there's a bootlegger guy that is doing t-shirts illegally. You know, it's a lot of scam artists.
Oh, of course.
But he has one of my photo, my image and likeness and all that, and he's selling it. So I said, well, wait a second. Why, if I can do that, why don't I do it? So that's probably something that I'm going to do in the near future.
Yep.
But Fish, I love those guys because, I mean, they were great what they did back like in 89, or actually even before that. I remember 88, 87. And they've become like what happens with all bands, including this one, no matter what version. When you play a lot together, magic happens. It's like a relationship. You become almost like psychic.
Yeah.
Like with my wife sometimes, you know, we're watching TV and she says something and I go, I was just going to say that. You know, you have a thing where it's almost the same vibes you're feeling. So that happens in music. And also the opposite. If there's water and oil, it doesn't mix and the band breaks up. But Fish has this thing which I really like, because when I went to their concerts, which I have been the last few years, they're the kind of guys that come into the dressing room and goes, man, I was just hearing some song on the radio, this Motown song. Oh, let's open with that. And they're like that. They're just, let's work out. Yeah, let's open with that.
Free-spirited.
Yeah, and they do whatever they want and whatever they feel.
Yeah.
And their shows. And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
This band continues outdoors and indoors, and the band is tight.
Yeah.
That's what I get from all my musician friends. We have a great combination of on stage, be the best musician, and off stage, be the best human.
Yeah.
And when you have that combination, you can be successful 24 hours on the road. It's when one or the other one is lacking. You cannot get along personally, but music-wise is great. And then sometimes the music sucks, but you all get along and you try to work it out musically. Right. But when you have both combination, on stage and off stage, that's the key. And so this band right now is that we can hang out together, we can have meals together, and musically it's just like we hit it, and it's just magic.
Yeah,
every
great.
night.
Well, Wally, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and talking your history and your career. I hope you have a great gig tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
All right.